My name is Femi Aishoro. Today we are going to be looking at arrays, we are going to talk about slice, we are going to be talking about map. They are all collections in Go. Go is a statically typed language and we need to look at types. So what do we mean by being a statically typed language? Statically typed language means that whatever we are doing, when we declare a variable, we must specify the data types. Unlike interpreted language like JavaScript and Python, there's no need to do that. You can declare your variable without necessarily have to specify the data types. And Go is very strict, means that when you set a type to be, when you declare a variable and you set the data type to be integer, it only means that that variable can only accept integers values. Alright, so this is one peculiarity about Go. And we have data types. We have different data types. We have the basic data types. We have the composite data types, meaning that combination of basic data types, and we have the advanced data types. All right, so when it comes to map, when it comes to slices, when it comes to array, we are dealing with composite data types. And I would like to show us something about the basic data types. These are the basic data types that we have in Go, right? So one way or the other, you get to see this more. All right, so we have the integers, we have the bool, we have the strings, we have the byte, we have the root. So these are the basic data types. I want us to pay attention to the examples. Okay, so we can see that the variables is only holding just one data types, just one. So like the first one says var age, this particular one that we have here is var age int. So we talked about variable, the keyword is variable. We talked about the identifier, which is the name. So the identifier is the name you give to your variable, the name you call your function, the name you give to your struct. So that is that about identifier. And then the value, you have to specify. So we have the identifier, we have the data types. So when we declare variable, whatever we are doing in Go, we have to specify the data types. And then we talk about the what? The value. So the value, since the data type is integer, then it has to be what? A number. Okay, so these are basic data types. And I want to show us, I want we talk about the composite data types. So these are composite data types. And what do we mean by composite data types? So composite means you are composing something. So it's a combination, multiple or bringing basic data types. That is what composite data types are. So when we talk about array, slice, and map, we are going to be talking about collections. Collections. Alright, so we are going to see that combination of data types. That is what we are going to be seeing, are going to be talking about. So we have arrays. We can see the examples of arrays. We are going to be looking at examples, and then we're also going to talk about the difference between arrays, slice. We're going to talk about map, and then if we time permit us, we can talk about struct. We talk about methods. Okay, so we have methods that act on the struct. Okay, so and then we talk about the advanced types. We are going to still talk about pointers. We talk about interface. We've already talked about function in the second series of this series. So and then we look at this. So these are things that we are going to be looking at in this particular video. All right, so I want us to jump right in and start writing some code. But before we write code, I want to walk us through some understanding and explanation. An array in Go is a value type, right? So array in Go is a value type, meaning that array are copied entirely. When we work with Go, it's important to understand data types. These are very, very one of the most important concepts that we need to understand whenever we are working with Go. We need to understand the different data types because whatever data we are dealing with, we have to specify the data types. Every value, every data you are working with at any given time, at any point, the data types has to be specified. All right, so and we have two data types. We have the value data types and we have the reference types. So we have value types and we have reference type. So value types are when you create a function, we already know from the function series that functions takes in arguments. Arguments are the variables you pass in into your function, maybe to do one thing or the other. Whenever we are working with functions and we have to pass in arguments, once they are data types, it only means that they are copied, right? So it does not affect the original data. I mean, I'm talking theoretically. We are going to be seeing this in example. I'm going to write code to explain this. And then we have the reference type. So reference is already, from the word reference, means that it is pointing to something. And that is how we work with reference types and data, and then the value type. So it's important to understand these things. So, and then we are also going to talk a little bit about pointers, because pointers are everywhere. We need to understand how pointer works and all of that. So I've already talked about pointer in one of the series, but I'll still talk about pointers as it relates to array, slice, and struct and map. All right, so let's get to read some things. Array is a value type, so it's important to take note. Value types create copies. Okay, so it's meaning arrays are copied entirely when assigned to another value, another variable, or passed to a function. So that word is very important. This is different from a reference type like slice, map, or pointers. A value type in Go means assignment, function call, create a copy. So when you are passing any of the value type to any variables or functions, a copy will be created. So it means that you don't have access to the original copy. But unlike reference type, you have access to original copy. Means you can edit, you can mutate it, you can change the data, you can add to the data. It's just like you sending a document to someone. You share a document using the Google Docs to share a document with somebody, and the person create a copy of it. Or you give a document to somebody, you share, and you give the person a right access, meaning that if the person changes something from his end, then it reflects on your own end. So that's just the difference. So the person creating a copy is more like a value type. You know, giving the person, you and the person working on the same original copy and allowing the person to be able to edit means you are working with a reference type. That is very important. That difference is key in order for us to be able to work effectively with arrays, slices, map, and all the types generally. A value type in Go means assignment a function call, create a copy of the data. Changes made to the copy do not affect the original. So we are going to look at some examples. So these are examples that are here. So I'm just going to talk about slices. So we have arrays, and arrays are there in almost every programming language. So what's the difference between arrays and slices? So arrays are fixed, slices are dynamic. That's the difference between arrays and slices. All right, so arrays are fixed. Arrays, you need to specify the length in array. So you can see we have 3 here, and that is what makes it an array. So arrays are fixed, right? Arrays are not dynamic. So when you use array, so in Go, you don't really see people use array. It's not common because they are so rigid. They are fixed, right? But you see people work with slice a lot. So because slices are making reference. So slice underneath, they are also using their arrays, but they are pointing to array. So that's the difference. So slices are dynamic, slices are flexible. They are easy to work with. You don't have to specify the types when it comes to slices. All right. So I want to show us some examples, and then we move on from there. Okay. So I'll just read this. It says, so number one, let me just read these few lines and then we go to slices. I just want us to see the difference between arrays and slices. So collections like arrays, slice store multiple values, right? So they can store multiple values. The Go array is fixed length and homogeneous. It is fixed. That's a problem because when you're working with data are highly dynamic, right? Data has to change at one point or the other in your program, and they are they are not predictable. You can't just set something to be 3, you can't set something fixed. Okay, so the length must be constant and is part of the array types. That you see, arrays are not commonly used directly in Go as slices, as slice provides flexibility. So this is an example of an array. Okay, this is how array is, and I'm going to show us. Okay, so we are going to use loop to in order to loop to get the values, and so these are array. So let me quickly talk about slice. Slice are reference to a contiguous segment of an array. So slices are built on top array. They are still making reference to array, but the point is a reference to a contiguous segment. Okay. Slices have three types: pointer to an array, length, capacity. Slices are dynamic and they are used more than array in Go. So this is a format. Right? So what's the difference between array and slice now? So the format is, let's get to code. Let's get to write some code. Let's see some arrays and all right. So we have, I can declare var here, var array, var array 1. Just want to check something. var array 1. So let's do var array 1. So we have to specify the type is 5. So this is how it is. 5 int, sorry. 5 int. So this is an array, right? So if I do fmt dot print int like this, we have array 1. That is it, right? So I just want to console.log go run main. So what do you see? You see that what we have how many zeros? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've talked about when you declare a variable in Go, very important that we can declare a variable without initializing the variable, right? So these are 3 points. You can declare a variable without initializing the variable. What it means is that when you declare a variable in Go initializes a memory for you. So there's a memory that is being initialized, and the memory is initialized, meaning you have a memory address. So when you declare a variable is to initialize, it will initialize a memory for you. There's a memory address, and then because there's a memory address, there has to be a value for it. So the Go will automatically set a default value for you. The default value that Go is giving us here is just this, is zeros. Okay, so declare a variable without initializing that variable is that you don't have a value set to that variable. That's just what it means. So when you declare a variable or you initialize a variable, it means that the variable is also, you are providing a value. You understand? You declare the variable and you also set a value for that variable. So what we are talking about here is you are probably doing something like this. So you just do like so. So let's do, you have seen this. So automatically set a value of a 0. So what we are looking at here is that we are looking at var like this, array, let's do each like this, and then we have 6 like this. So we are going to have 6 numbers. Oh, int, we have to specify int like this. So we have 28, we have 50, we have 15, we have 22, we have 17, we have 18. So this is what we have. So we declare a variable which is the name, and then here we are saying that we have this square bracket, and then we also have to specify the length inside the square bracket. So so in array, what we are doing now is, you see that it's a collection type. So being a collection type, what we have to do is that we put in a square bracket. First and foremost, there must be a square bracket inside the square bracket, and then we also have to put and specify the what? We have to specify the length. So the length is saying we are expecting how many integer now? We are expecting 6. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is what we have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is what we have. And then we can now do fmt prints. So and this is the prints that we have here. So you can do array age like this. So this is what we have. So let me just put it something and say the results of array. So that's what I'm going to put here like this, array. So let's do it like this, and then let's get what we have here like this. So what we have here is going to be this. You can see that we have the result here now. So, okay, the result of array is 28, 50, 15, and like this. So this is an example of an array. All right, so what we are going to, that is how arrays are generally. And then, you know, let me just show us a shortcut of, instead of declaring a var here, we can do something like this here. We can do array age like this. We can do just specify here. We can do, let's just do 3 ints like this, and then we have 40, we have 40, we have 15, 17, we have 90. All right, so we can just do fmt.print int like this, print it like this, and say the results of the array can just be like this. So we have array age like this. All right, so this is what we have here like this, and then we have go run. So we have the result of the array is 40, 70, 90. So instead of using the var keyword, since we are inside the function main, then we can just use the short way, the short declaration way of creating a variable by using this, by doing this way. So that's an array. All right, so array we follow with, this is what we are going to have when we have to deal with array. We are going to have a square bracket, and then inside the square bracket is where we are going to specify the length of your array. So we are dealing with numbers, then it has to be 3, and then we are also going to specify the data type. So the data types that we are dealing with here is integer, int like this. So that is very, 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 very key. That is very, very important when we are working with array. So the next thing we have to deal with now here is, let's talk about, so we are going to write a function. Let's write a function here. Let's write a function. I'll just write it on top here. Let's write a function, func change. We're going to write a function called change array like this. Function change array, and then we are going to pass in an array. We are going to specify the length of the array, which is what? Which is 3. Right, so we have array like this. So we want to get the first array. So the first array is going to be 99, and then we have fmt.print int like this. We're going to print to the console, print int like this, and then we are going to have inside the function like this, and then we are going to have array like this. All right, so what we are doing here is this. So what we are doing is, we have an array that has the length of our array is 3. That's the length of our array, right? So array is, there's going to be index of an array, and this is what we are talking about the index of an array, right? So the index of our array has to do with this. So we are going to do something like this. I just want to do something like this. So there's a way we can access the index of our, so we have index of array as this one. Since it's a collection, this is going to be 0, 1, and 2. So we can do something like this. Let's do something like this. So accessing, I just want to write something. Let's do this. I say fmt.print int like this, and then we can say accessing the first elements of an array like this, and then we are going to do something like this. So I'm going to do array age like this, 0 index, right? So what we are going to do here right now is to do, let's do go run main. All right, so what do we see? We are seeing 40. So what we have here is we have 40, 70, 90. 40, 70, 90. That's what we have, right? So we are able to access the first index. So what it means is that when you are working with array, so what we have here is you have 1, 2, 3. That's what we have, right? So we have 1, 2, 3. All right, so we can also access the, in the index of the array, we are starting from a 0, 1, 2, 3. That's what you have. right? So we have like this nice one is 0, 1, 2. So what we have here is we have 0, 1, 2, right? So that is the index. So I'm just going to say index here is going to be this, index here is going to be 0, 1, 2. All right, so accessing the first one is you are starting from a 0, right? Where you have to access the values in an array, it starts from a 0, right? So even though this is saying the length is 3, so for the length, it's starting from 1, right? So the length of array is not starting from 0, the length starts from 1, right? So we have it's starting from 1, so for the index start from 0, so you have 0, 1, 2. All right, so accessing the first one is 40, then let's say accessing the second element, in this case this is going to be what? This is going to be 1. So what we have here is going to, let's clear this and then let's do this. What we have here is going to be 17. So we can see that this is 0, 1, 2. So accessing the second one is going to be putting the 2 here. So which is going to be this. And then we have, what we have now? We have 90. All right, so let's try to access everything. Array, let's do array 0 index, starting from 0 index like this. Array age like this. We have 1 as well, so I'm going to clean this up like this. All right, so let me just reduce. Okay, so all right, so we want to access the first one, the second one, the third one. So the index starts from 0, 1, 2 like that, right? So accessing this is going to do something like this. Let's clear. So what do we have now? We can see 40, 70, 90, right? So this is how we access the individual elements in an array. All right, so let's go back to our function. All right, so going back to our function, we started writing this function. Right, so what we are trying to do here is that we have a method. We've talked about method, and the method has an argument, but the argument that we are passing inside the method is an array. How do you know that something is an array? How we know that we are dealing with an array is because the length has to be specified. That's why we say arrays are fixed. So length has to be specified. By the time we start working with slice, we see that when you're working with slice, you don't have to specify the length, right? So because they are flexible, not like arrays. So that is that about flex. So about slices, right? But in array, you know that the length will be specified. So what we are now doing is that this is an array, right? So this is a function to change an array. So that means we are going to expect to have array that has 3 lengths of array. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, right? So it's going to have 3 integers, right? So we now want to access the first value. All right, so we are accessing the first value. So whatever this first value is, we are setting it. This sign equals to is going to set it to 99. That is what is happening here. And what we are now doing now is to now print the array. So by the time we call this function, we want to print the array. So we are going to come to our main func now. Let's come to our main func. We are going to say original. Okay, so I'm creating a variable called original, and then we are going to create an array. So how do we create an array? Specify the length is 3, then int, and then we are going to do something like this as well. 1, 2, 3. All right, so what do we want to do now is we are going to call the function. So let's call the function, which is what? Change array. So change array is going to take what? Integer. It's going to take original, right? So we are going to take original, then this is array, right? This is the array we've created. We know that this function we've created here is going to take an array that has the length of 3, and this depicts that exactly. So we are passing this inside this. That is what we are doing here. So what we want to do now is to do fmt print int like this, and we are going to do outside function like this, and then what we are going to do now is to do this. We are going to call original like this. All right, so We are calling the function here because inside the function we're already printing out. We're already printing out our array. So we are printing out the result here. So that's just it here. All right, so that is that. So let's check what we have here. What do we have now? All right, so we are seeing that inside the function, which is this line, inside the function, what do we have? We are seeing that the array that we are passing is what? 1, 2, 3. So what do we get? We are seeing 99, 2, and 3. Why? Because we have done the changing here, right? So by default, here, the value here is what? The value here, the value here, the value here is 1, right? The value here is 1. So what we are doing is we are now setting that, okay, array of this is 1 already. So what we are doing here is to change it. So you are saying, okay, it's just like saying what is there is 1. So we are now setting it to what? We are setting it to what? 99. And that is why we have 99 here. All right. And then by the time we pass the array here, which is this original here, we have this. And then now what we are doing in line 18 is to try and see if any changes has been made to the original array. What do we see? We see that the original array is still intact, which is what? 1, 2, 3. So we can see that the original array is still intact. So what it means is that when we looked at this, so what we saw, what I talked about the value type is that it's a value type create a copy. So what it means is that when we pass this original inside the change array, a copy is what it's a copy has been created. So a copy was created inside this function, right? So you can see that by the time we are printing out the original array, nothing has changed. So a copy was passed inside this function, and it's only that copy that was edited. So you see that the copy was changed here. So you see that the value that we got when we printed our function is what? Is this first one? We have 92, 2, and 3. Why? Because it was only a copy that was passed inside the function. So by the time we are now, by the time we print out the original, we see that nothing has changed. So this is what we are talking about. We are saying that whenever you pass any value type inside a function, a copy will be created. You understand? Nothing affects. This is original data, right? The original data remains. The original data remains unchanged, right? So that is very important to take note. So whenever we have to use any of these things that we have here, right? Once we are passing it inside the function, we just have to know that a copy is what we are working with. It does not affect the original data. So this original data remains untouched. It remains unchanged. All right. So that is that. All right. So that is very, very important. And then so we are going to that ends it for array. This is just the basics for array. And then we are going to look at slices. We talked about slices being what? Slices is a reference to an array, contiguous segment of an array. Slices have what? Have 3 feet, a pointer to an array, length, capacity. Slices are dynamics, and then they are used more than arrays in Go. Why are they used more than arrays in Go? Is because slices are flexible. You don't have to specify the length as we do in array. All right, so we are going to look at examples of slices. So what we are going to do now is I'm just going to so let's do some examples. I'll still come back to this. Let's do some examples of slices. This is some examples of slice. So this is an example of slice. So we're going to write, let's do something like this. I'm going to write fruits, for instance. So just going to do something like fruits. So we are going to have this. So first and foremost, it's important to always have what we call this bracket, right? So the square bracket is what depicts whether you are dealing with collections. So whenever you have to do with collection, it's very important. So you have your square bracket like this, and then follow by the data type, right? So whatever we have to do, we have to also specify the data type. So that's very important. So you have the square bracket, and then we want to store strings. That's what you want to save here. So and then open the braces like this, and then we have apple like this. We have apple. Then after apple, we have banana. We have banana like this, and then after banana, we have cherry like this as well. So that is very important. So what we are now going to do next is to do fmt print int like this. So we are going to say the results of our fruits, result of fruits like this, right? So fruits, result of fruits like this is going to be, let's put it in the console like this. Let's say fruits like this, and that's it. So I'm going to just clear my console like this, and then we are going to do go run main.go. So what do we see now? We are seeing the result of apple, banana, and cherry. So we can see that when it comes to slices, so this is slices. What we are dealing with here is slices. We are dealing with slices here. So we are dealing with slices here, right? So when it comes to slices, right, we are not specifying the length like we did for array. Alright, so that's one major difference between slices and array. So we are not specifying the length. So that is one major thing about slices. So we are just going to clear this, right? So let me clear this. So that is that, and then we can also do something like this. So I'm also going to do, I mean, we can come up with as many examples as we want. There are many examples that we have for slice. So we have users like this. We have users, we have so let's create a string of users like this, a string of users, and then we have, so we have Alice, we have Alice, we have Bob, we have Bob, we have Charlize like this. All right, so that is that we have fmt print int like this. So we have, let's say users like this. So let's have users like this. Let's have users like this. Users like this. Users like this. So we are going to have something like this. So let's do users like this. So we're going to print it out like this. So what we have Alice, Bob, and Charlie. So that is that. So now, one thing that is also very important when it comes to arrays and slices is that we can loop through, right? Rather than, what if we need to loop through? So we can also loop through. All right. So let's try and loop through this array. So let's try and loop through. So we can loop through like this. Create looping through like this. So we are going to do something like this. We can do fi like this. We are going to do let's say maybe u. Okay, 4. So we're going to use 4 and then set it to what? A range like this. Is how we loop through range of what? Users like this, right? So we are done, and then open our braces, and then we are going to do fmt print int like this. All right, so we are going to just do users like this. So okay, so what are we going to do now is let's do so I'm just going to print I and u. All right, so I'm looking at what can we do. Okay, I think let's just see what we have on the screen like this. Let's see what we have on the screen like this. So we can see that. So what we have done here is to loop through it, right? So we are looping through the values. We are looping through what we have here, right? So that's what we have done. We can see that this represents the index, right? Because we talked about index the other time in array. So it also applies to slices as well. So we can see that the index starts from what? 0, 1, and 2. 0, 1, and 2. So that's how it works. So we can, by looping through, we're able to print out. So this represents the 0, this represents the index. The I is index here, and then the U is the value here. All right, so that is very key, and that is what we have done. So one thing that we are also going to look at is, and it's possible, we talked about blank identifier. So blank identifier is that you don't want to print the results of the value. So let's say, for instance, I can make this one to be blank. Let's just do blank identifier like this. So we don't want the results. So instead of leaving that alone, we can just do something like this. All right, so So what we've now do is you can see users, we are this index has been omitted. Why? Because we are using a blank identifier here. All right, so we don't have this value being recognized. So at times you see this in Go code, right? It's just there like that, like the value that maybe a function is returning. So a function is returning, like maybe a function is returning a value and the error. So the only thing you want to handle is just the error. You don't need the value. All right, so what you need to do is that you just leave it blank like this, and that works. All right, so that is that about that. So we are going to look at so we talked about, when we come back to this diagram, we talked about the value type and the reference type. So we see that this is an array, right? Array is a value type that when you pass an array inside a function, right, a copy is created inside that function. So you don't mutate or you don't edit the original value. But when it comes to slices are a little bit different, because slices are pointing to an array. So slices are a reference. So it's a reference to an array. You understand? So it works a little bit different, and we are going to talk about that difference now. So what we are going to do now is to let's pass a slice. So we are going to create a function. Let's create a function here. So we are going to create a function like this. So we are going to do func change slides like this. So this function change slides is going to take an array, and then we are going to have like this. So this is what we are going to have. Now, what's the difference between slices and array? Like I've said, so the difference between array and slice is this, is that what we are passing in here, right? We are not specifying the length. That's just the difference. So we are not specifying the length. Okay, we are not specifying the length in what we are passing it here. So in slice, we don't specify the length. So what we are now going to do is we are going to do something like this. We are going to say x, right? We are want to get the first index. That's what we are going to do. We are getting the first index. Is we are setting it to what? 99. So the same example is the same example, right? The same example is what we are dealing with here. And then we are going to do fmt print int like this, fmt print like this. So we are doing inside the function, inside function like this. So that's what we are going to do, and it's going to be array like this. So that is what we are doing here. All right, so very basic, very simple. So we see that we did the same thing here for array here. That's just the same thing that we did for array, right? But the difference is that array, we are specifying the length. Here we are not specifying the length. So what we have done here is to try to get the first index of the array. So we got the first index of the array by using this, and then setting it to what? 99. All right, so in the terms of array, we saw that the original data was still intact. There wasn't any change in the original data. So let's go back to our main function and write original, the same thing like this. Let's do something like this. Okay, I think we have it somewhere here. Okay, let me just type it out like this. Original data like this. We have int like this. So this is how we do it. 1, 2, 3. All right, so what we need to do next is to do change slides. So what we are passing in is what? Original like this. So we are going to do fmt.print int like this, and then we are going to do what do we do? Outside function like this. Outside function like this. So that's what we are going to do. We are going to have original like this, and that's all. All right, so the same thing that we have done. Also, we are going to see the results very shortly. So let's do let's come back here and do Golang. So what do we see? We are seeing that our changing the first index here, right, has already mutate. Mutate means we've altered the data here. Mutate the data here. You know, that changes affect the data here. So that's just the logic here. So you can see that our changing it inside here affect the original data, because what we are simply doing in 923 is to just print out the original data. That's just what we are doing here. So we are just printing out the original data. That's just what we are doing. So we are seeing that in line 23, printing out the original data has given us this, and we can see that original data has been altered because we call the function in line 23. You understand? So original data has been altered. Original data has been altered. So that is what we have here. Original data has been altered here. So that is what we have here, and original data has been altered. So what are we going to do now is that original data has been altered. So that's just that. That's different. So original data has been altered. So because here line 21 is where we have the original data, and then we call the function. So meaning that this one inside the function has been set to 99, and that is what we have. So because the function result is this line, so this line has the function result. So inside there is the function give us is printing, the function is printing something here, fmt. So the function gives us 99 to 3. Then this one also gives us this as well. So this one's give us fmt, right? This is going to give us fmt 99, 2 and 3, and that is it. So we know, we can see clearly now the difference between value types. So value types, what happens in value types is that a copy is created, but a reference type, they just act like pointers. It can affect the original data that is being passed. So we need to be aware of this. So when we are dealing with slices, right, we don't have to use a pointer anymore because they are like they behave like a pointer in this case, because when you pass a slice inside a function, automatically what happens is that whatever you do to the data that's being passed affects the original data. That is just that. All right. So lastly, what we are going to look at is we are going to check out map. So what are maps, right? What is map? So these are collections that we have looked at. What are maps, right? So let's talk about maps. So I'm just going to do person like this. We are going to have person dot something like this. We are going to have map. We are going to have string. We are going to have strings. So we are also going to have another string here. Okay, so this is how a map is. Okay, so when we are dealing with map, what we have here, you have map. It starts with the name map, because maps are objects, key value pairs. That is what maps are. Key value pairs. Map, key value pairs. So you have a map, then since it's a key value pair, so this is how it is, right? It's just like objects in JavaScript, right? So you have key value, they comes like this, all right? Key value pairs, right? So what it means is you have a key, you have a value. So you have to now specify, your key. So you have to specify the data types of your key. So in our case now, the data type for our key is string. It can be an integer. It can be anything, right? So you have to, so in Go is a statically typed language that we specify our type. So here we have to specify that, okay, our map is going to be, the key is going to, so the key is what comes first. So the key is the one that is inside the square brackets, right? So this key is always going to be inside the square brackets, while this other one is the value. So if this one is a string, then we also have to specify the value. The value can be integer, can be anything, so you have to specify the value. It can be a struct, it can be anything, it can be string. So in our case here, it is string. So that is how it is. So I'll just continue here. So we can now do something like, let's do something like this. Just take this out also. So we have person dot map, we have string, we have strings as well. So we have we have let's have a name. All right, so this is a map. So in that map now, since it's a key value, so we are saying name. So what is a name? So the name is saying, okay, Alice. Alice like this. Then we have to put a comma because it's key value. Key value. Then the next one is going to be like a city. But it has to be, you know, city. Let's say Lagos. All right. So that is that. So if you come back, you come down here, you do fmt print person like this. So let's clear this. So what do we have now? So see what we have. So we have a map, we have city, Lagos, and then we have name, Alice. So one thing that we should take note here is that maps are on order, right? So they don't. Let me check if I put a note for map. All right. So I want to check what we have here. If we have any notes. So map are on order collection of key value pairs. Now you can see that the order at which I said this is name that comes first here. You can see that city is what comes first, and then you see city here, and then city coming first, name coming second. So we can continue to add more here. You can even say country like this. You can say country like this, and then what we are going to have is we're going to say Nigeria like this, right? So and then by the time we do console.log again, what do we have? We have country, Nigeria, city, Lagos, name, Alice, and that is that for map in a nutshell. So these are collection data types that we have looked at, and I'm just going to stop here, and then in our next series, we are going to look at structs extensively. We talk about structs. We also look at the method of structs, and then we also look at interfaces, and then we're also going to look at we are also going to be checking out yeah, we're going to look at examples and then check out a code base where I used structs and interface so that we can understand how it is being applied in a real project. So thank you, and if you have not subscribed, please consider subscribing and then like, drop a comment, and then if there are anything that you want me to know, I will appreciate if you drop a comment. Thank you and bye.